Long Beach, California, August 2, 1964. Sunday afternoon. The Long Beach Municipal Auditorium sits 2 blocks from the ocean. Inside, 2,000 people fill every seat. The air conditioning struggles against body heat. The smell is sweat and anticipation, and the faint salt of ocean wind pushing through propped open side doors. This is the second International Karate Championships, Ed Parker's event, the biggest gathering of martial artists in American history. Practitioners from 40 styles: Japanese karate, Korean taekwondo, Okinawan systems, jiu-jitsu, judo. Every tradition represented, every school watching every other school, measuring, judging, protecting territory. The audience is overwhelmingly white. Maybe 15 Asian faces in 2000. This is 1964 America. Bruce Lee has been in the country for 5 years. The Civil Rights Act passed 2 months ago. The nation is splitting along every possible line: race, war, generation, tradition versus change. And into this pressure cooker walks a 23-year-old Chinese man in black pants and a dark shirt.
No gi, no belt, no rank insignia.
Just Bruce Lee, 5'7", when fighted by Ed Parker to demonstrate real kung fu to an audience that has never seen it, an audience skeptical of Chinese systems, an audience raised on Japanese and Okinawan karate, hard styles, linear power, visible strength. Bruce stands backstage. The wooden floor creaks under his feet. He can hear the crowd through the curtain, thousands of voices blending into white noise. He's been preparing for this moment for months, drilling, refining, thinking about what to show, what will translate, what will prove something. But there's a problem he didn't anticipate until 30 minutes ago. His demonstration partner is skeptical. The man's name is Bob Baker, experienced karateka, 6'1", 200 pounds, thick through the chest and shoulders, years of traditional training, good reputation, solid technique. Ed Parker chose him because he's credible. If Bob validates Bruce's demonstration, the audience will believe it. If Bob doesn't, if he hints that it's staged, or tricks, or cooperation, Bruce becomes a sideshow act, an exotic curiosity, not a martial artist, an entertainer. Bob stands with Bruce backstage, arms crossed, face neutral. He's not hostile, just unconvinced. He's heard stories about Chinese kung fu, secret techniques, mystical power, chi strikes, pressure points. Most of it sounds like fantasy to him, like the martial arts equivalent of stage magic, misdirection and willing participants. Bob looks at Bruce, says quietly, "So what exactly are we doing out there?" Bruce explains. Simple, direct. He'll demonstrate a punch from 1 inch away, show that power doesn't require wind-up, doesn't require chambering the fist back to the hip, like traditional karate teaches. Just structure, body mechanics, kinetic chain. The punch will move Bob backward. Bob nods slowly, asks, "How far backward?" Bruce says, "Depends on your route. If you brace, maybe a foot. If you don't, maybe more." Bob says, "And you're doing this from 1 inch away?" Bruce says yes. Bob doesn't quite smile, but his eyebrows lift slightly, the expression of someone humoring a claim they don't believe. He says, "Okay, let's see." That's the problem Bruce recognizes in Bob's tone. Polite doubt. The kind that will show on stage. The audience will see it. They'll sense Bob's skepticism. And if the demonstration doesn't decisively overcome that skepticism, if it looks even slightly cooperative, Bruce's credibility dies before it's born. This matters more than Bob understands. Bruce has been teaching non-Chinese students for 3 years, openly, breaking the unwritten rule that Chinese martial arts stay within the Chinese community. This has made him enemies. Traditional teachers in San Francisco's Chinatown consider him a traitor. They've challenged him, sent representatives, tried to shut down his school. Bruce fought one of them 7 months ago in a private match that left both sides claiming victory and no witnesses willing to confirm what actually happened. Now Bruce is here, representing kung fu to an American audience that has no context for it. If he succeeds, if he shows something undeniable, he validates his entire approach. proves that Chinese systems deserve respect, proves that teaching Westerners isn't diluting the art, proves that tradition can evolve. If he fails, he's just another Chinese guy doing parlor tricks. Ed Parker walks over, smiles, puts a hand on Bruce's shoulder, says they're ready. The crowd is warmed up. Perfect energy. He looks at Bob, asks if they've rehearsed. Bruce says no. Ed's smile flickers. Just a moment. He says no rehearsal. Bruce says, it works or it doesn't. Rehearsal won't change that. Ed nods slowly, recognizes what Bruce is doing. This isn't a choreographed demonstration. It's a live test. Real technique against real skepticism. Higher risk, higher reward. Ed respects that. But he's also running an event. If Bruce's demo falls flat, it affects the whole show's credibility. Ed says, you're sure about this? Bruce says, yes. Ed holds his gaze for 2 seconds, then nods, says, okay, you're up in 2 minutes. Bruce and Bob walk toward the stage entrance. The curtain is heavy velvet, dark red. It smells like dust and decades of performances. Through the gap, Bruce can see the stage. Bright lights, wooden floor, a folding chair positioned center stage. That's for Bob. The impact will send him into the chair. Visual proof of power. But what if it doesn't? Bruce has done this technique hundreds of times. In his school, with students, with training partners who understand body mechanics, with people who trust him. But Bob doesn't fully trust him. Bob thinks this might be exaggerated, cooperative. And if Bob braces, if he tenses and roots and resists, the technique could fail. Not because it doesn't work, because Bob's skepticism creates a physical barrier. Bruce knows this, has thought about it, realizes he can't control Bob's belief, can only control his own execution. The announcer's voice booms through the auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, our next demonstration comes from Oakland, California, representing Junfan Gung Fu. Please welcome Sifu Bruce Lee. Applause. Polite. Curious. Not enthusiastic. This audience doesn't know who Bruce Lee is. He's not famous yet. Just another regional instructor getting a slot at Ed Parker's event. Bruce walks onto the stage. The lights are hotter than he expected. He can't see past the first few rows. The crowd is just darkness and noise beyond the stage edge. He walks to center stage, stops, bows, the traditional gesture, respect for the audience, respect for the art. Bob follows, positions himself next to the chair, stands straight, arms at his sides. His face is professionally neutral, but Bruce can read the micro-expressions, the slight tension in Bob's jaw, the way his weight settles into his heels. Bob is bracing already, unconsciously preparing to resist. Bruce takes a breath, needs to shift Bob's mindset before the demonstration. If Bob enters this adversarially, it fails. Bruce speaks. His voice carries clearly. No microphone, just projection. Years of teaching have trained this, he says. In traditional martial arts, we're taught that power requires distance. The karate reverse punch chambers here. Bruce demonstrates, pulling his fist to his hip, and travels this distance to generate force. He throws the punch. Sharp. Fast. The sound cracks through the auditorium. A few people in the audience nod. They recognize good technique. Bruce continues. But power doesn't come from the distance the fist travels. It comes from how efficiently your whole body transfers energy. If your structure is correct, you can generate power from any distance. He pauses. Lets that settle. This is the claim. The thing that sounds impossible. Bruce says, I'm going to demonstrate a punch from 1 inch away. The punch will move my partner backward into this chair. The force doesn't come from arm strength. It comes from the ground, through my legs, hips, core, and shoulder, and exits through my fist. One continuous wave. The audience is quiet, listening, skeptical but interested. Bruce looks at Bob, says quietly, just between them, I need you to stand naturally. Don't brace, don't resist. Just stand the way you would normally. If you tense, It disrupts the energy transfer, and you'll feel it in your chest instead of moving backward. Trust the technique. Bob's eyes narrow slightly. Processing. He's being asked to make himself vulnerable, to not defend. That goes against every instinct. Bruce sees the hesitation, says, even quieter, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to show them something real. Help me do that. Bob holds Bruce's gaze. Something shifts. Not full belief, but willingness. He nods. Bob sits in the chair, positioned as instructed, upright, hands on his thighs, breathing normal. His posture is still slightly tense, but better than before. Bruce steps in front of him, squares his stance, feet shoulder width, weight evenly distributed. His right fist extends, stops 1 inch from Bob's sternum, not touching, just hovering, 1 inch of air between knuckle and chest. The auditorium holds its breath. Bruce doesn't count down, doesn't telegraph, just commits. His back foot presses into the floor. The force travels up his leg. His hip rotates. His torso whips. His shoulder extends. His arm, already extended, doesn't punch forward. It transmits. The fist is just the exit point for energy that started in his feet. The sound is sharp, wet, impact. Bob's eyes go wide. His torso jerks backward. The chair skids. 6 inches, a foot. Bob's hands fly up, reflexive. His breath exits in a rush. The chair tips, balances on 2 legs for a fraction of a second, then settles. Bob sits there, mouth open, hand on his chest, not in pain, in shock. The audience erupts. Not polite applause. Genuine reaction. Surprise. Excitement. People standing, shouting, whistling. They just saw something they didn't believe was possible. Bruce steps back, breathing controlled. His face is calm. He doesn't smile, doesn't celebrate, just watches Bob, making sure he's okay. Bob stands slowly, looks at Bruce. His expression has completely changed. The skepticism is gone, replaced by confusion, wonder. He rubs his chest, says, loud enough for the front rows to hear, I felt that in my spine. Bruce nods, says, that's the wave traveling through you. Bob shakes his head, laughs. Not mockery, astonishment. He extends his hand. Bruce shakes it. Bob says, I didn't think that was possible. Bruce says, most people don't. The applause continues. Ed Parker walks onto stage, grinning. This is exactly what his event needed. Something undeniable. Something that makes people talk. He raises Bruce's hand. The crowd roars louder, but Bruce barely registers it. He's watching the faces in the first few rows. Sees martial artists, serious practitioners. Some are nodding, impressed. Others look confused, analyzing, trying to figure out what they just saw. A few look angry, threatened, like Bruce just invalidated years of their training. One man in the third row stands, walks out, doesn't wait for the demonstration to end, just leaves. Bruce sees this, understands what it means. He just made enemies. The demonstration continues. Bruce shows other techniques. A 2-finger push-up, 1-armed punching combinations, footwork drills that blur into invisibility. Every technique reinforces the same message. Efficiency over tradition. Function over form. What works over what looks impressive. The crowd loves it. They've never seen anything like this. Martial arts in 1964 America is rigid, formal, hierarchical. Bruce is showing them something fluid, adaptive, alive. But Bruce knows this moment is more complicated than applause suggests. Backstage after the demonstration, several instructors approach. Some want to train with him, learn his methods. Others challenge him, subtly. That looked cooperative. Can you do it on someone resisting? Bruce stays diplomatic, offers to demonstrate privately. Some accept, most don't. They just wanted to plant doubt. One older Japanese karate instructor, thick accent, traditional gi, decades of experience visible in his posture, stops Bruce, says, You disrespect tradition. Bruce says, I respect what works. The instructor's jaw tightens. Says flashy demonstration, not real fighting. Bruce doesn't argue. Just says, if you want to test it, I'm available. The instructor stares, then walks away. The challenge hangs in the air, unresolved. Ed Parker finds Bruce. Still excited, says, that was incredible. People are going to be talking about this for years. Bruce nods, says some will talk about it the wrong way. Ed's smile fades slightly, says, what do you mean? Bruce says, they'll call it a trick. Say Bob cooperated. Say it only works on stage. They'll use this to dismiss everything I'm trying to show. Ed considers this. Says let them. The people who matter saw what you did. They know it was real. Bruce says, the people who matter are the ones who control schools, tournaments, media, and most of them don't want to believe a Chinese system can challenge their authority. Ed doesn't respond because Bruce is right. 3 weeks later, an article appears in Black Belt magazine. The demonstration is mentioned, but the language is careful. Impressive display of body mechanics becomes interesting exhibition. The 1-inch punch is described as appearing to generate surprising force, with appearing doing heavy lifting. The subtext is clear. Maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't. Bruce expected this. Still stings. The footage of the demonstration gets passed around. Grainy 16mm film. Copies of copies. Martial arts schools across the country. Some use it to inspire students. Others use it to mock. Chinese parlor tricks. Cooperative demonstration. Not real martial arts. But something else happens that Bruce doesn't anticipate. Young martial artists. Students tired of rigid tradition. Practitioners questioning their teacher's authority. See the footage and recognize something. Bruce isn't just demonstrating a technique. He's demonstrating a philosophy. Question everything. Test everything. Keep what works. Discard what doesn't. Letters start arriving at Bruce's Oakland school. Students asking to train. Instructors asking for seminars. Some of them are white. Some are black. Some are Latino. This is 1964. Martial arts schools are still largely segregated. Not officially, but through culture, through tradition, through unspoken rules about who belongs. Bruce accepts everyone, charges the same rate, teaches the same material. This infuriates traditional Chinese teachers even more than the Long Beach demonstration. They see Bruce as selling out, giving away secrets, diluting Chinese martial arts by teaching it to outsiders. The tension builds for 2 years, culminates in a private challenge match in 1966. Details remain disputed. Both sides claim victory. No video exists. Only testimony from people loyal to one side or the other. But the impact is clear. Bruce's back is injured. Months of recovery. During that recovery, he re-examines everything. Questions whether traditional forms, even modified ones, serve any purpose. Starts developing what will eventually become Jeet Kune Do. The style of no style. The 1-inch punch becomes the technique most associated with Bruce Lee. More than any other single demonstration, it introduces him to American consciousness. Filmmakers see the footage, invite him to audition. He lands the role of Kato in The Green Hornet. Hollywood comes calling, but Hollywood sees the punch the same way Black Belt magazine described it. A trick, a gimmick, an exotic display. They want Bruce to do demonstrations, show off, play the mystical Oriental martial artist. They don't want him to have dramatic roles, don't want him to play complex characters. Just the sidekick, the mysterious foreigner, the human special effect. Bruce fights this for 7 years. Auditions for roles written for white actors. Gets rejected. Not believable as the lead. Too Chinese. Accent is distracting. The 1-inch punch gave him entry into Hollywood. But Hollywood uses it to keep him in a box. Bruce pitches a TV series. The Warrior, a Chinese martial artist in the American West, using his skills to help people. The executives love it, option it, develop it. Then cast David Carradine, a white actor with no martial arts background, in the lead role. changed the name to Kung Fu. The show becomes a massive hit, runs for 3 years, makes Carradine a star. Bruce watches from Hong Kong, returned to Asia after Hollywood made it clear there was no space for an Asian leading man. The irony is crushing. The 1-inch punch made him famous enough to pitch a show, but not famous enough or white enough to star in it. In Hong Kong, Bruce makes films, becomes an international superstar. The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon. In every film, he demonstrates the philosophy behind the 1-inch punch: efficiency, economy, precision over power. By 1973, Hollywood wants him back. Enter the Dragon. First major American production with an Asian lead. Bruce's entire life built toward this moment. Proof that the 1-inch punch wasn't a trick, that Chinese martial arts deserve respect, that he deserves respect. He dies 3 weeks before the film's release. 32 years old. Cerebral edema. The official story says allergic reaction to pain medication. Rumors suggest overwork, exhaustion. A body pushed beyond its limits by years of trying to prove something that shouldn't have required proof. Enter the Dragon becomes a massive hit. Bruce becomes a legend. The 1-inch punch becomes iconic, replayed endlessly, imitated, parodied, referenced in films, TV shows, video games, divorced from context, turned into exactly what Bruce feared, a gimmick. But something else happens that takes decades to become visible. The students who saw that 1964 demonstration, the ones who wrote letters, who questioned their teachers, who embraced Bruce's philosophy, they become instructors. They teach the next generation. Not just techniques, the mindset. Question dogma, test everything. Function over tradition. Those students teach their students. The philosophy spreads. By the 1990s, mixed martial arts emerges. Fighters combining systems, testing what works, discarding what doesn't. Bruce's philosophy made manifest. The 1-inch punch itself becomes less important than what it represented. Not the technique, the principle. You don't need to wind up. Don't need big movements. Don't need to look impressive. You need structure, timing, understanding of how bodies work. Modern fighters study the footage, not to copy the punch, to understand the mindset behind it, the willingness to demonstrate something that could fail, the confidence to stand in front of 2,000 skeptics and say, "Here's what I believe. Judge for yourself." Bob Baker, the reluctant partner, tells the story for the rest of his life. He's asked about it constantly. Seminars, interviews, martial arts gatherings. He never changes his account, never embellishes, just describes what he felt. The shock of impact, the wave traveling through his body, the realization that everything he thought he knew about power generation was incomplete. Bob becomes an advocate, not just for Bruce, for the principle of remaining open, of being willing to have your assumptions challenged. He credits that moment, sitting in a chair, feeling Bruce's fist against his chest, with changing his entire approach to martial arts. Made him question everything, made him better. Years later, a journalist asks Bob if he thinks Bruce became too famous, if the legend overwhelmed the man. Bob thinks for a long time, then says, "Bruce didn't want to be famous. He wanted to be understood. Those are different things. The fame came because he was undeniable, but the understanding, that took longer, and it cost him everything." The journalist asks what Bob means by cost him everything. Bob says, he spent his whole life proving he belonged, that Chinese martial arts worked, that he could be a leading man, that technique mattered more than size or race or tradition. He proved all of it, but the effort killed him. He burned himself out trying to make people see what should have been obvious from the beginning. The journalist asks, what should have been obvious? Bob says that he was right. August 2nd, 1964, Long Beach Municipal Auditorium. 2,000 people, one demonstration, 6 seconds from setup to impact. That moment didn't just introduce Bruce Lee to America. It crystallized everything he fought for and everything he fought against. The need to prove what shouldn't require proof. The box that fame creates, even as it opens doors. The gap between being respected and being understood. The 1-inch punch became iconic, but icons aren't people. They're symbols, and symbols can't feel the weight of constant demonstration, can't feel the exhaustion of proving yourself again and again to audiences that demand you exceed their expectations every single time. Bruce Lee gave America the 1-inch punch. America gave him fame and took everything else. In the end, maybe that's what the demonstration actually showed. Not just that power doesn't require wind-up, but that proving yourself, even decisively, even undeniably, doesn't guarantee you'll be seen as fully human, just extraordinary. And extraordinary people aren't allowed to rest. They're expected to keep demonstrating, keep proving, keep exceeding, until there's nothing left to give. The footage still exists. Grainy, black and white, 6 seconds. You can find it online. Watch Bruce's fist extend. Watch Bob fly backward. Watch history pivot on a single technique. But you can't see what it cost. The years of fighting, the roles denied, the show stolen, the body pushed past breaking, the life cut short. You just see the punch, and maybe that's the final lesson the 1-inch punch teaches. That moments become legends, but legends erase context, and without context, we miss the most important part of the story, not what Bruce achieved, what he sacrificed to achieve it.